come on up. We found him. He was doing this talk at another church, and some of you guys have heard this story. Molly and I went to another church to hear him talk, and we heard how powerful the message was. I'm not going to get too far into that, but just know he really has just such a great heart and a great head for this ministry. If you get a chance to talk to him one-on-one, tell him thanks for coming out. He's got family here. He left to come all the way over here. So, yes, we're happy to have him. Yes, he did make a sacrifice to be out here with you and share that message. And let's go ahead and pray, and I'll let you take it. Father, we thank you for this evening. We thank you for Nathan and for the words, most importantly for the message that you have for us. For all of us parents who don't know what we're doing and definitely don't have it all down and don't know all of the things that we don't know, thank you for Nathan and for a lot of the topics that he's going to be teaching us tonight and tomorrow. Thank you for the time, not only for him, but for the time for the people that are in this room who've made this a priority, who are invested in the lives of their kids. I pray that you'll be with the teens that are here, help them to figure out where their parents are coming from and the fact that everybody wants the same thing. We all want to be raising kids that love you, and we want to be able to help them love you and to be able to take away just anything that might get in the way of that. We thank you again for this evening. We thank you for everybody that's here, and we pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Aaron. Hi, everybody. I'm excited to be here with you tonight. Again, my name is Nathan Sutherland. I run Gospel Tech, and this is a ministry dedicated to helping families love God and use tech. Quick overview of, Aaron mentioned multiple talks, so let's be clear what we get. First talk tonight, talking to you young people. This is directly to young people. Parents, you are just observing. This is a little bit because I want there to be some accountability on the fact that the words were said. Nathan said the words, it's no longer your parents' fault, and kids, you get to hear it. You'll hear what I'm saying to them. I'm just saying it a slightly different way to you. Then comes the parent talk tonight. It's on the big three: smartphones, video games, pornography. Then tomorrow morning, 8:30 a.m., we're going to do a workshop on how do we actually make a tech framework. How do we make it so we know how to talk about tech and how to walk that out in our daily life? There's a workbook. We'll go through it together. There's an online addition to that you can use if you want to review any of that. If you come and get the workbook, that'll take care of that. And the final workshop for tomorrow is how do we build tech trust? And we're really going to look at the 3 steps of that, both how do we build it initially, preemptively, or if trust has been lost, how do we restore lost trust in a digital age? So that we're not just crossing our fingers, throwing our kids out there and going, hope it works. But we're also not over-policing our children if that's not what's necessary. It is not about us keeping our kids right. It's about pointing them to the hope they have in Christ. So that's kind of the 4 talks. There'll be a Q&A at the end of that 4th one. That's what the box is for. And it's kind of no holds barred. I'm flying out tomorrow anyway, so you never have to see me again. I'll give you the answers and then go. If you don't feel comfortable asking, those cards in the middle of your table are for you to be able to jot that down on, all right? So you can send me an email, nathan@gospeltech.net. It's right there. All right. With that idea, Gospel Tech. I did hear Aaron mention, I just want to clarify this, I'm here for really 3 reasons. First is that I was a middle school teacher for a decade. I taught 8th grade language arts. Those are my people. I love teaching middle school, and I realized in that process that I'm passionate about seeing kids reach their full potential. So I'm here because I was a teacher, and here because I want to see every kid in this room become everything God has designed you to be. And I believe this conversation will help you get there specifically as you're growing up in a tech world that your parents and that I did not grow up in, which is the next thing you need to know about me. I have kids of my own, and that's awesome, but we're not perfect. And you do need to know that, and I'm going to check real quick with Sarah because we did tech this. Oh, all right. Might be bodies blocking it. That's cool. These are my humans. So Owen there on the left, he's 9. Henry on the right is 7. Hadley is 4. You'll hear a little bit about them, but I do want to let you know, as a parent, we can see when you guys are wired to be good at certain things. Like starting at 18 months, 2 years old, every one of these kids started to show their unique personalities. Owen is type A. He's a rule follower. He's been keeping a calendar since he was 4. And he loves himself some organization. Henry could not be more different. Henry walked in the house the other day with one shoe on. I'm like, buddy, where's your shoe? He looked down at his feet. Looked at me. It's like, I don't know. And like Henry, he wasn't going to go out and look for his shoe. In Henry's mind, the past has already happened. I can't change it. The future isn't here yet. I'm a boy with one shoe. Love me as I am, right? Like that is Henry's MO, and that's wonderful. Being present is fantastic. I don't know if he's going to be able to keep nice things in his life, though. And then Hadley is the reason we have dance parties in our house. Never once did we have a dance party in our family, and not from like a lack of enjoying dancing. We just never thought of it. And one day I heard that we have a record player in the front of our house. I heard the record play, and I was like, what is going on? And I look in the room, and Hadley is standing in the middle of the room by herself, just head down, arms in the air, dancing, right? Just breaking it down by her lonesome. That could describe her perfectly. She's also looking for applications for Queen of the Universe in case that position comes open anytime soon. So just know that even though they look good in pictures, this is also what happened that exact same day. Please note, Hadley is still in the bushes somewhere. I don't know when this happened. The photographer just snapped it. And the boys, this is how they roll. I am still actively figuring out how to raise kids in a tech world. I do not have every single answer, but I can tell you that from my 10 years in middle school, raising 3 kids on my own and doing lots of reading and research and speaking and asking lots of questions, I have a few answers and then a few more questions that I think will help us. So that's kind of the premise. Today we're going to be talking about the 2 types of tech, young people. We're going to be talking about how we can know if our tech is healthy. I know this is a conversation you've had with your parents. I'm fine. Your parents are like, no, you're not. We'll actually have the answer before we leave today. And then the third and final one is how we can use tech on purpose rather than for purpose. So to get that story started, I want to talk a little bit about where I'm coming from with this conversation. So my tech journey started with a little Mario Brothers. I was 8 years old when my dad brought home a Nintendo Entertainment System. He came in, he put that thing down, I was like, what is it? He's like, look at this. We played Mario and Duck Hunt on the same cartridge. There's something just delightful about it. You have to put it in and then push it down. Sometimes another cartridge has to go over it. Pro tip, by the way, Duck Hunt. Player 2 controller moves the duck. Don't tell them. You'll just get inside their head as that little dog mocks them into oblivion. And I played video games and realized there was something good about this. I didn't know what it was, but this was in a day and age when you didn't claim the moniker of nerd. That was not something you said about yourself. You did not go and be like, I'm a nerd. People gave it to you, and it meant you're going to die alone with your cats. That was what that meant. This was not a cool thing. So you didn't go and tell people you liked video games. You liked video games, and you made little video game jokes. And if someone laughed, you made eye contact, and you're like, got it. We're in on this, but we can't let them know. So we're going to keep joining the school play and playing the sports and pretending like we're normal, but all the while being huge nerds. And I just assumed I would grow out of it. Do you know the average age of a gamer right now in the United States? What's the average age? 13. Great guess. 9 or 10. Excellent guess. Anybody else? 35. Another guess? What? 450. Yeah, average age right now is 33 in the United States. There are 250 million gamers in the United States. Yes, moms playing Candy Crush at soccer counts. That's $1 billion gaming franchise that is officially gaming. However, we didn't grow out of it. In fact, people realized the Nintendo was cool, and they're like, I wonder if we could make something better. So they came out with the Super Nintendo, and then the N64, and then the PlayStation, and the Xbox, and then we have, PlayStation 5 and the Xbox One X, and Steam Decks, and all the other things we have. Those are not made for 9-year-olds. Those are made for 33-year-olds with the kind of cash to drop on that kind of amusement, because we basically built up entertainment scar tissue. I mean, Super Nintendo was cool, but at some point it just wasn't doing it anymore. We had to keep scaling up our video games to the point now where if I cannot project this directly into my retinas, if my head does not smoke when I am playing this thing, then it's not intense enough. And then we slap that on a 9-year-old and go, I don't know why he can't sleep. Right? Because it's supposed to be 30 years of scar tissue that's getting through, and now this is just the base level. Now that kid's like, real life is lame. I can't sit still, right? Because it's so intense. And that idea was what I was having to process, because I went through high school, and then I went to college and got fast internet and a lot of free time. Turns out video games aren't less cool on fast internet with more free time. Who knew? And then I was an adult with a house and a master's degree and a wife, still gaming an inappropriate amount. And by inappropriate, I mean I was skipping things I was supposed to do to get back to my video games. Now, my wife didn't know this because I wanted to stay married. So I hid my gaming Spoiler, if you are hiding a behavior from your spouse, there's a really good chance it's not a healthy behavior. Until 2 a.m. one morning, I pushed myself back on a Sunday morning from my desk. I was supposed to be done at midnight. My wife is part cat. She goes to bed around 9:30. At that time in life, I was going to bed at like 1 on an average day. So she'd go to bed, and I'd be like, well, I'll like iron some stuff and then play a couple hours of video games. But I was only supposed to game from 10 to midnight. I mean, come on, church in the morning. It's 2 a.m., I got to be up at 6. That's not great. I'm like, all right. Oh, by the way, the reason that went south was because my team was terrible, and I refused to end on a loss. Just in case you want to know. It's their fault, not mine. I was like, all right, this is problematic, but here's the deal. I got ready for bed. I got into bed, and I said this quick prayer. Dear Lord, please help this not be a problem. Let me be a good son of yours, a good husband, a good teacher. Amen. Went to sleep, woke up, completely forgot about it. 4 hours later, I'm sitting in church, and the pastor goes, hey, we're not going to preach through John today. Instead, we're going to take a diversion and talk about addiction. And it was one of those sermons where we're like, that's really good. Someone here probably needs to hear that. Right? Completely forgetting my prayer of 4 hours ago, and I don't remember the first half because I was really tired, and I was trying to keep it together and not make my wife ask questions on why I was so sleepy. Maybe I need more sleep right now. Until halfway through the sermon, the pastor says, if you're asking for God to help you control your sin, you're praying the wrong prayer. God doesn't manage sin, he kills it. At which point, that prayer from 4.5 hours ago came smashing back into my life, and I went, oh no. And now I have a choice. This is no longer ignorance. It's not that I don't know. I heard very clearly, not all of us have the opportunity to have a sermon that was made couture to our needs, but this one was. And at this point, I could no longer operate in ignorance. I had a choice. I either would trust God on the prayer that I prayed, that's my fault, or do my own thing, go, yeah, but I didn't really mean it. At which point, he's going to let me do that too. That's called rebellion. And I chose not to do that, but it's not pretty. I'm not going to tell you at this point in the story that everything worked out great and it was just high fives and butterflies. Video games were my thing. Video games were what I did in my free time. They were where my friend group was. This was my time. So I asked God, dear God, 3 weeks later, I'm digging a hole in my backyard, only kind of morbidly. And I have this conversation with God. Dear God, do you mean to tell me that the rest of my life is wake up, go to school, do work, come home, do more work, go to sleep, rinse and repeat until I die? And I simply got back a single question, do you trust me? Which isn't a fair question because we've all read the Peter account, we get it, right? The whole do you love me thing, like, yeah, I trust you. I would just like an answer. I want to tell you, if you're asking God for an answer and he doesn't give you one, or he graciously asks you a loving question, that's very possible that he's being kind, because within 12 months, my wife and I were going to go through the single worst period of our life we've experienced to date. If I had been told that that was coming, I probably would have opted out somehow. I would not have intentionally headed into that season of life. I simply wouldn't have. And we don't have enough time today to unpack what that was, but just know the Lord graciously withheld that fog of war 12 months out and simply asked, do you trust me? I was like, okay, I get it, but this is my thing. This is what I do for fun, so what else am I supposed to do? I gamed about 10 hours a week at this time. Now, some of you are like, that's sad. He's a grown adult gaming 10 hours a week. I can't believe it. What a terrible man. I understand that, okay, but please understand that the gamers in the room are like, 10 hours a week, and this guy calls himself a gamer? No. Please, you need to turn in your card, sir. So I get it. I understand. Please know that for me, it was more than the time I spent. I was getting through the good things of life to get back to gaming. It was an all-the-time thing. Gaming wasn't that much time when it comes to games. But I asked the Lord what I should do. He said, well, do you trust me? I was like, yeah, sure. But why am I doing this? Well, it turns out that I was teaching because I cared about kids. So the Lord offered me some opportunities to work with kids. I started asking around, asked a teacher. I was in a teacher conference. We did the corral style. I don't know what you guys do out here. But we had all the teachers in the gym, and the parents would come in and talk to you, and you'd have like a little timer set. So we were doing that. I turned to the teacher next to me at one point and go, hey, do they have Young Life here? She's like, no, do you want to run it? I was like, no, I just have 10 free hours, and I'm bored. I want to go, sorry, I'm already coaching. What else can I do? Just trying to be faithful. Well, I got invited to an informational meeting. Any of you know Young Life, you know what informational meetings can be like. Here's what they're like. 30 families in the room talking about junior high Young Life, technically wildlife for those of you who are in the program. I understand, I'm using the different term. And they went around introducing everyone, and then I was introduced last, and they said, this is Nathan, Aylin Young Life's leader. Now, this was the first I'd heard about it. I've never been to a Young Life club or camp at this point. And that began my ministry, which showed me I actually care more about kids reaching their potential than I do about teaching language arts, and I care a lot about language arts, which led me to starting in 2016 a nonprofit, which led me to quitting teaching at the end of the 2019 season, which led me to speaking to you right now on a school day. Because I don't teach anymore. I do this full time. Because 11 and a half years ago, the Lord asked me, do you trust me? So today's conversation, the reason we need to have that bit of my story is because, first fact, games are awesome. That's not up for debate. I'd be happy to prove it to you if you need it. We just need to start with that understanding. I'm not anti-video game, I'm not anti-tech. But we also need to understand that God is way better. Every once in a while, people hear that story and they go, oh, if only my child, if only my spouse, if only I gave up video games, then I would love God enough. That is not the point of this anecdote. The point of this story is I gave up nothing. When you hear that parable about the man who found treasure buried in a field, and he gave up everything he had to buy the field. We've heard this before. And sometimes people go, man, that guy's so good. He gave up everything to follow God. No, he didn't. He gave up nothing. The entire point of the story is he sold his used donkey and his used clothes and his used house. And he bought a palace and a brand new set of horses and some oxen to go with it because he got treasure in a field for the garbage that he sold. I gave up a behavior that was ruining my life, was going to torpedo my marriage in the next 12 months, and was setting me up for consistent failure and a lack of fruit in my ministry. I didn't give up anything. I happen to not play video games anymore. That's a small cost to get what God is calling you to do. So we need to remember that God is way better than whatever it might be that we're being asked to give up. And the final piece is there is a purpose. I may not know it for you. I can at least point you on it. It's a path we're going to walk, not a destination you're going to arrive at. That's really important because your purpose never sails away. None of you are stuck on the shore going, bye, purpose. I wish I'd made better life choices. If you're here today, you still have a purpose, and it's still available to you. And that is the premise of when we're talking about tech. So we're going to start then talking, all right, what do we mean when we say tech? We don't just mean things that plug into walls or have screens. There's actually two kinds of tech. Tool tech and drool tech. It's not good and bad tech. This is really important to know. Tool tech is tech that helps us create. If you use it to leverage your own abilities to make something, that's awesome. It'll always happen at the rate of real life because you can't make stuff faster than your brain can work. So you cap out at how fast you can make something. And if you stop using it, it stops working. Compare that with the other kind, which is drool tech. Drool tech helps us consume. Again, it's not bad, but drool tech always shows up with another goal. So it might help you connect with friends. It might help you engage some entertainment. It might even help you accomplish a goal. But it's always going to have another goal for you because it comes to the table with a mode of its own. It wants to take your time, your focus, and your money. Again, that's not bad, but it is different. If you're having an argument with your family about technology, there's a really good chance it's not tool tech. It's a good chance it's drool tech because your parents might say, 5 minutes left, and drool tech goes, maybe 10. Right, just one more video, just one more round, just that one more thing, and then you'll be done and it'll be fine. So, quick pop quiz, because again, you can't take the middle school teacher out of me. It's just there. Tool or drool? Microsoft Word. It's not a trap, I promise. It's tool tech. Because at no point have any of you at 11 p.m. while lying in bed gotten a notification, looked at your phone and gone, it's Microsoft Word. Clicked on it, it's like, hey. Haven't seen you in a while. Just was wondering if you remembered me. Thought maybe you'd want to write like a haiku or something. Right? No, it never does that. At no point does it send you a little snippet. Did you know Sally already started her book? You know it's way better than the one you started. Here's a little piece just to make you feel bad about yourself. It's not how it's built. It's simply tool tech. You can save, you can share, you can edit across the internet. But at the end of the day, if you write every single day or you write once a year, it just waits for you. It's a really fancy writing shovel. That's Microsoft Word. How about Netflix? What do you think? Tool or drool? It is drool. Doesn't make it bad. I know there are documentaries on there. I understand that you use them. Okay? Here's the thing about most documentaries. If you are engaging a documentary, you're going to probably need multiple unless it's a very balanced documentary, and very few of them are. Engage multiple of them, synthesize that information, and then apply it to your real-world understanding in action. That's awesome. You're using it as tool tech. That can be done. There are technological documentaries, Childhood 2.0, Screenagers. These are ones that I have engaged, The Social Dilemma. and then applied parts to research and go and digging deeper into conversations that I'm really interested in for families. So you can use them, but most of us treat those documentaries and information like I treated Super Size Me. Any of you ever seen that documentary? About a guy who only eats McDonald's for a month? Okay, and you come away just horrified, like, oh, I can't believe it. It turns into water cooler talk. It's when you show up and you're like, did you guys know? Have you guys heard? Right? It's the fun facts. It's why I no longer eat at McDonald's. I drive straight to Burger King. Because at the end of the day, it didn't functionally change how I operate. It simply grossed me out about McDonald's, and I moved on. How about podcasts? Now, I run one, so this is very personal. Young people, podcast, tool or drool. What do you think? They absolutely can be tool, right? This is where it's going to come in. If you are engaging multiple podcasts to get a wide and diverse array of information to synthesize in your own brain and apply in real life, that's amazing. I like to believe the Gospel Tech podcast is tool tech for you. Certainly listening to Nathan talk for 30 minutes at a time isn't massively entertaining, so I hope it's applicable and helpful. Absolutely, there is that information. However, a lot of that information we glean is just kind of fun facts, or it's stuff we already know, and we just want to listen to people that make us feel smart and right. Right? Because it's fun. It's fun to hear why those people are the wrong ones and I'm the right one. I love that. Just know that that's okay to a point, but it may not be the informational, educational piece that we like to believe it is. How about news feeds? Like the ones on your phones, your social media, any of that? I'll give you a hint. It has the word feed in it. News feeds are intended to give you information you love or hate. There's really no middle ground, because if you love it, you're like, I'm right, and you're more likely to run to Twitter and post about that. Tell the world how awesome you are, and if it's not that, it's going to be about what other people are doing wrong. And you're more likely to run to social media and be like, they're wrong! And that drives engagement, and engagement drives revenue. So just know that if it's coming in a feed, again, you can engage a number of apps, you can engage a number of sources, you could absolutely use them well. Most of us don't click on it. Turns out research shows us that most of us just read the headline and then go to people, did you guys hear? We can fill in the dots for the most part, right? And when we do read, we read less than 1 minute of an article. Even of a 4-minute read, which is your average article length right now. We don't even finish a full 60 seconds. Most of us are using it as drool tech. We're using it as infotainment. How about computers? Young people are they tool or drool? I heard of both. I love that. They are. When I was teaching 8th grade language arts, I had a January literature unit on tone and mood. Now, January in Washington State is dark and cold. It's basically southern Alaska. It's dark out before you get out of school, and it's dark when you arrive for school. So the only sun you see is out some window the teacher has, and they probably have it closed so you can see the screen. That's the perfect time to introduce a tone and mood unit where you read things like To Build a Fire by Jack London, about a guy freezing to death in the Yukon. Or The Little Matchstick Girl, about a girl freezing to death in a big city. Or, personal favorite, Edgar Allan Poe's Telltale Heart, about a guy burying his roommate under the floorboards. You can imagine that several weeks into this unit, kids are pretty bummed out, which means when I go, please open the folder, and on your computer, open the shared drive. We all have one-to-one devices in the district I taught in. Would you please open the PDF of this story? And then the computer, during school hours, sends a little notification that says, did you know this computer has Minecraft? You can imagine how the average 8th grader, when faced with reading about yet another person freezing to death, or Minecraft, would struggle to not click on Minecraft, right? You can understand how a computer then isn't necessarily tool or drool. It depends on what's loaded on it. And I would argue that we don't have any tool tech platforms for education right now. All of our platforms for educational purposes are modified drool tech, which makes them very tricky to keep accountable, makes them very tricky to keep as learning devices. And frankly, if we're sending our kids to Google for research projects, we should take a good hard look at ourselves. So if you're a software developer, or work in a hardware company. Come on, someone's got to be able to design a real piece of tool tech out there. This is important for us to know, though. When we talk with our kids about what is the idea behind tool and drool tech, we want to make sure that we're looking at it and saying, all right, what are we having as an argument? Give me a moment. Ha! First try. Again, tool tech helps us create things like Microsoft Word and AutoCAD. It's helping us leverage our own abilities. I can write much faster in Word than I can with a pen. Drool tech, again, it's not bad. The four main types, though, is going to be social media, streaming and movies, music, and video games. Now, these are ones that come with extra hooks attached. The idea, again, is they want to take our time, our focus, and our money. At the end of the day, Drool Tech wants to distract you. That's where their revenue is. Let's just take an example of this. YouTube. I like YouTube. I personally use YouTube. A lot of other people use YouTube. YouTube has 2 billion monthly users worldwide. That's a quarter of the world's population, by the way. Out of those, if they were able to just get 1% of their monthly users to stay for 1 extra minute, they would gain more than 13,000 days worth of viewing that month, which means they have a huge financial incentive to encourage you to stay longer. That little suggestion bar underneath your search is what that's for. 3/4 of their views comes from that bar, which means you go on there to figure out how to fix your dryer. And you stay on there to see just how Dude Perfect hits that trick shot. Right? It's just another 90 seconds. This is the entire idea behind Reels and Shorts. There's little 30 to 60-second videos that just get you to stay that little bit longer. It's painless. You didn't even notice it in your day. They notice it. And their job is they want to get you to stay longer than you planned on, or to cost you more than you intended to pay, or if they can't get you to stay longer, just come back one more time. You came for that one 60-second hit. Can you come back later today just for one more? That's all we need. In fact, we only need 1% to stay for one more minute. The revenue on that attention economy is really important. Now, this isn't going to be long, but kids, I need you to know this because I found that young people don't like getting used by tech companies. There absolutely is a way to make this a better product. It doesn't have to be antagonistic to consumers. Here's how it works. Operant conditioning. A guy named B.F. Skinner wanted to train a rat to press a lever on command. He made what's called an operant conditioning chamber. Basic premise is, light goes on, sound goes off, rat's supposed to press the lever, it'll get a treat. The rat did it until he got tired of the treat. So then, Skinner, not being a dummy, goes, all right, let's electrify the floor. So light goes off, sound goes off, rat does not press the lever, floor turns on. Rat freaks out, starts bouncing around the cage, bumps into the lever. Electricity goes off. Rat goes, you know what? I don't care about the treat, but I don't want to get electrocuted. So when the light goes off and the sound goes off, I'm going to press the lever, even when the thing's not plugged in. Even when no shock will ever come, rat presses the lever on command. That's important to know because it doesn't just work for rats. In fact, there's something called neuroplasticity. This is this idea that your brain adapts to the choices you make. You've heard that whole practice makes permanent thing. It's actually true. This is important because there was a while where we believed behavioralism was the thing, that you're a machine made out of DNA and you can only do what your genes tell you. That's not true. In fact, this book is a bunch of anecdotes from Norman Doidge, who is an operating psychiatrist and works with people specifically in OCD. Oh, no, excuse me, I'm thinking of Jeffrey Schwartz. He works with a number of different people through research to find examples of neuroplasticity. I apologize, I swapped those. The Mind and the Brain is Jeffrey Schwartz working with people with OCD. All right, neurons that fire together, wire together is a theory from all the way back in the 1940s, but this idea that the stuff you do repeatedly, you get good at. In fact, in this book, Doidge talks about a lady who went in for surgery, got some medication, and it scorched both of her inner ears, the little loops that keep you upright. She then got crippling vertigo. She could not stand, could not drive, could not dress herself, could no longer hold down a job. There's no way to rebuild or replace the inner ear. You just simply have vertigo for the rest of your life. When she laid down, felt like she was falling through the floor. One day a doctor approached her and said, hey, we have an idea for an experiment. Would you be willing to try it? She said, absolutely. They put a retainer in her mouth that had stippling on it, little dimples that would pop down and hit her tongue. She leaned her head left, they'd hit the left side, right, hit the right side, forward, front, back, back. Trained her on it for an hour. She got 15 minutes of independence before her body started spinning and she hit the floor. Trained her on it for a year. By the end of a year, she was independently walking again without the retainer, no more future trainings. They were able to train her tongue to cover the exact same balancing operations that the inner ear is supposed to do. That's not something humans do, by the way. That's not like a medical thing like, well, of course, the tongue being close to the ear. That's not how it works. The brain was able to adapt the balancing behavior to the repeated training of the tongue. He goes into some much more troubling examples. For example, continued exposure to pornography. The exact same thing happens. If you repeatedly expose your brain to a behavior, you get better at it, whether it's good for you or not. This is detailed in the book called Hooked. Nir Eyal is a guy who wanted to teach you may not be able to read that, how to build habit-forming products. He's not talking about the problems. He's talking about the benefits of helping people build habits. Young people, this comes, so example, external trigger would be like a notification. You get a notification that drives you to an action like, I'm going to check this app. I'm going to go on this social media. I'm going to play this game. That drives you to a variable reward. It can be literally like a loot drop or a win or a loss. It can be a good or a bad comment. There's no such thing as a bad variable reward. As long as something happened, you got feedback and you know you exist, which gives you investment, which makes you more likely to repeat that behavior. So the next time you're bored, the next time you're angry, the next time you're curious, you're more likely to return to it. That in turn develops the behavior. If you're using an app or a program that has one of these, if it has notifications or a like button or a feed or infinite scroll or followers or stats or a swipe to refresh is one of my favorites. They literally took that design from slot machines. When you hold down, it gives you the little circle and then it pops up new information. That's a variable reward. You're more likely to stay for the next time you can swipe to refresh and find if something new. You don't know what is going to come. In fact, I had a kid the other day tell me he reached the bottom of his infinite scroll. He's like, I just was trying to stay up until this meeting I had in the morning, and around 4 a.m. my scroll ran out. I was like, dude, you broke the algorithm. Like, that shouldn't happen. That's not great. Or just simply the fear of missing out. When you're not on, you're constantly worried that something is happening that you're not going to know about, or something's happening about you that you're not going to know about. That is by design. The Social Dilemma, by the way, is a great documentary on the topic. I wouldn't encourage you to watch it if you don't have other resources for practical help. It doesn't give you any solutions. It just gives you lots of scary information. If you're not scared enough about tech, please watch it. If you're already like, and that's why you're here, you can skip it. The idea here, though, is to remind us that technology, specifically drool tech, has a goal of its own. It's not on accident. Let me give you a specific example. What app is that? Nailed it. Snapchat. Snapchat invented something called streaks. Anyone here want to explain what a streak is? Young people? What's a streak in Snapchat? Anybody? I know, speaking in public, right? You take a snap of a friend, of yourself, send it to a friend, they message you back or snap you back. You now have a streak of 1. Within the next 24 hours, you need to repeat that process. What's amazing about this is exactly 0 people ever have asked for this function. There was no one who was messaging their friends being like, you know what I wish? I wish that there was some kind of a timer that tracked our friendship and always kept us on the brink of no longer liking each other. No one asked for that function. Their goal, though, is to take your time, your focus, and your money, and it worked. This was right before they became a publicly traded company, and their value skyrocketed. It gives you a reward. They literally track you with points. There's a leaderboard online. They punish you. What happens if you go 24 hours without snapping each other? Yeah, it expires, and that person no longer speaks to you again. They also invented this thing called being left on red. I had a girl break down to tears because of this in class. This means if you check someone's snap and don't message them back, it shows a little red dot. That means you hate them. Or something. I don't know. Apparently, that's what it's interpreted as. Because they read it, they just didn't care enough to message you back. Again, 0 people have asked for this option. Right? You know what I want? I want my friends to know when I've read it so that I'm really on a timeline to come up with the right words fast, and it forces me back into communication. You guys got anything that could do that? They're like, we could come up with it. Grumpy Cat's got it. Being left on red made this girl cry because she checked the message in class and was like, no, it's going to be on red. They're going to hate me forever. That's a lot of stress. That is behavioral design, and it is very good for business, but it's not great for humans. If you ask a young person who has Snapchat, have you ever kept a streak alive when you should have been eating, when you should have been studying, when you should have been sleeping, or when you were around other people that you could have been talking to? 100% of kids who've used Snapchat will say yes. That's really important to know because that's literally Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You need sleep and food. You need social connection, and you need your future, which academics is a major portion of, building your mind and your character. So you're giving up things you need for something you didn't even want. And that's why design matters. Why do we care that it's tool tech or drool tech? Like, I get it, there's a difference between the two, but why does it matter? Because you can be convinced you need things you never wanted. You can be giving up stuff you need for daily survival and for your future to get to something that you don't even like, and that's the definition of an addiction. An addiction is when you start giving up stuff you need to get to stuff you want. And that's what we care about. No one's choosing that on purpose. It is, however, the intention of something like Snapchat. It's why it is designed that way. It's really good for business. There's a lot of money in doing it. Here's some examples of what we're seeing in terms of tech and youth. Average in 2021 was 8.5 hours a day on drool tech. That is not Zoom for school. That is not research. That is not working on AutoCAD or Rhino or your Python programming project. This is simply scrolling the web, social media, video games, streaming music. Using social media specifically, we're seeing a causal link with depression and suicidal ideation, starting at 2 hours a day on social media. Twinge et al. Found this in 2017. It's only grown. Jean Twinge is out of San Diego State University. She's partnered with Jonathan Haidt from New York University. If you send me an email to that email address, nathan@gospeltech.net, I'll send you a Google Doc they're sharing right now, 300 plus pages of research showing the causal link between social media use and depression and suicidal ideation in young people, specifically young girls. In 2022, 3 out of 5 teen girls said they experienced prolonged bouts of depression. It was 1 in 5 boys, or 1 in 2 boys. It's 50% of boys, but 60% of girls. That's concerning, and I can send you that. Reduced attention span, these next 3 all go together, academic success and brain drain. When we're talking about what screens are doing, they're training behaviors that are antithetical to deep work, as Cal Newport would say, to this ability to focus on a single task and get what we would call flow. They cause flow, but they cause flow across the top of the water, that ability to be in something where you lose track in time because you're so focused on it. We all do that when we're on social media and video games, right? I go up to my room, I'm like, I just got to check that one thing on social media, and then I wake up like 20 minutes later, standing in a dark room by myself, being like, I don't remember what I was doing. Anyone else? Is this just me? Right, this has happened to us. That's technically flow, but that's different. That's not a positive, beneficial flow. What we're finding here is that the presence of drool tech does inhibit the important learning that we want for our young people. The last one, I really like this one. It was had a phone, turned off, 3 different groups. One had the phone in front of them, one had the phone in their bag next to them, one had the phone in the hall. They all took the same test. Kids in the hall did the best. The idea being that having that phone in front of you, you have to think about not thinking about it. Right? Your brain has to say, don't think about your phone, don't think about your phone, don't think about your phone. It's just like when I walk into my kitchen, if my phone's not in a drawer, and I see it on the counter, I'm like, gonna get a book, hey, my phone, right? And immediately I'm like, I should write that person back. I should look up that thing. I wonder how the Kraken did last night. By the way, we have a hockey team. They're in the playoffs. It's kind of a big deal. Didn't want to rub it in, but it's pretty cool. And I want to know that information, right? So I should go check, but it didn't occur to me until I saw my phone, and that's the exact same thing that happens when we take smartphones into the classroom. Sorry, young people. There's no research showing that it's a good idea. So then, how do we know if it's healthy? We understand that tool and drool tech is separate. We can know what those are, and that's excellent. But how do we know if it's even a problem? I made an acronym called a RESET. Young people, I want you to do this for yourself, and I want you to do this for your parents. Yes, you can do a reset for someone else. The question is, does technology improve or impede my relationships and responsibilities, my enjoyment, sleep, emotions, and time? And parents, we will cover this in a conversation tomorrow as well, so this will come back around, I promise. Relationships and responsibilities. What I mean, young people, and by the way, let me take a step back. Reset is an amazing way when you're trying to get the technology you want. Use a reset. If you can prove that it will help you have a healthy reset, you are much more likely to get that technology. The only other part is you have to prove to them that it's safe. I can teach you how to do that. You have to prove to them that it's a good choice for you right now, that it supports your family's expectations, and that supports your purpose. You can do that and show that it gives you a healthy reset. You're going to get your tech because your parents love to give you good things. Just when you ask for an egg, they don't want to hand you a scorpion. So, back to reset. Relationship and responsibility. You're a better with your siblings. You're better with your schoolwork. You're better with your friend group. You're better with your sports. You're better with your work commitments. Because of this technology, that's awesome. However, if every time you engage this technology, you become more isolated, you become more gripey and grouchy, you become less satisfied with life, there's a good chance that it's impeding. And the question is going to be, all right, what needs to change? We're just simply noting that. I'm not saying if there's a problem, then get rid of all your tech. It means if there's a problem, that's where we start our conversation. The second piece, then, is enjoyment. I don't actually mind if you enjoy video games or you enjoy social media. That's wonderful. You should. But is it becoming the only thing you can enjoy? So for me with video games, I was getting through a bunch of other good stuff and I was skipping things. People would invite me out. Why would I go watch a movie when I could play a video game? Movies are lame. That's other people having fun. I want to be the one having fun. I'm going to play a video game. You can join me or not. That's what we're talking about. If this becomes the thing that you use for hope instead of from hope, then we have a problem. If it's the thing that absorbs all your attention and the rest of your interests wilt. I mentioned my son Owen is really focused and driven. If Owen were to not love focus-driven things, he loves board games because of rules. If Owen were to play a game or watch a show or engage in social media and suddenly not care about rules anymore, I would be deeply concerned. Because something integral to Owen as an amazing young man has just pivoted. And it came as a direct influence of this technology. That's what I'm talking about, okay? So if that happens for you, just know that's going to be a conversation point between you and your family. The other one is sleep. I'll say this simply, and this is not to place blame, but it needs to be stated. If you have drool tech in your bedroom, your sleep is being impacted. Because nobody needs a $1,000 alarm clock. Okay? You need this alarm clock. It's $30. It's from Amazon. It can beat you home tonight. The idea being, yes, you want to wake up on time. That's cool. This thing runs off batteries. It's the one that I use. It's excellent. It can travel with you. Please use it. But our smartphones can be a distraction. And if they're in your bedroom, they are. If you have a smart TV, if you have gaming devices, if you have any of the drool tech portals, there's a really good chance that it's a distraction to your sleep. Your sleep is really important. To the point where Matthew Walker, professor from UC Berkeley, he runs their sleep clinic down there. When sleep is abundant, minds flourish, and when it's not, it's a sad downward spiral that affects the intelligence quotient, emotional quotient, learning, memory, health, immune system, literally every bodily function. Sleep is really important. If we had more time, I'd nerd out on some more studies, but basically, two that I'll just reference and you can look up for yourself. A study on learning, 2 groups. They studied the same amount of time, 15 minutes over 2 weeks, 15 minutes every day. One group slept less than 5 hours. One group slept 9 or more. The 9 or more group doubled their score. The only static point. Why can I not remember the scientific word? So you have your variables and you have your control. There it is. Thank you. The only control was the study time. So different age groups, or it's the sleep time, different age groups, different economic backgrounds, different ethnic backgrounds, same school, everything, I had different GPAs. Sleep, amount of time to study, and they doubled their scores. The other is exercise. The muscle mass gained because you sleep more than 8 hours a night. Triathletes are now calling this sleep nutrition. There were 2 groups trying to lose weight. One group slept 5 hours, one group slept over 8. And the group they both lost the same amount of weight in the course of a month, but the group who lost with a lack of sleep lost muscle mass. They kept the same amount of body fat, whereas the group who slept over 8 hours lost fat. Sleep is really important if you want to be an athlete, if you want to be an academic, if you want to be a good friend, if you want to be healthy and well-rounded and everything God designed you to be, please get your sleep, get your drool tech out of your bedroom. I know there are seasons of survival. Parents, I understand that. You work 2 jobs and you're simply not home, and this is one way to, I get it, I understand those things happen. Our job then is to go, all right, where's our next step? This can't be our forever plan. This is survival mode, and we go into those modes. When a new kid is born, when tragedies happen, when stuff goes on, okay? Emotions, all I really care about here is, are you balanced? Do you need this thing to be okay, or are you using it because you're okay? And then finally is time. Are we content? Are we constantly needing more time like me? Always needed a little bit more. I would never once played a video game and was like, yeah, I think that was it. I think I'm done. I don't think I ever need to game again, right? I always needed a little more, which brings us to the question of, does this tech make me more present in the little things? When I say little things, what I mean is those little things in life that God's put us there for. Jesus says that when we're faithful in the little things, we can be trusted in bigger things. That's why I picked out all those little things about your relationships and responsibilities, and I'll give you a little bit better of a list. Things like this. You don't need to be awesome at all of them. Let's just look for 3 that we're crushing. Could your parents point out 3 of these that you're doing amazing in so they could trust you in a couple more? Because that's what we're looking for. If they can't trust you in family time, if they don't see you pursuing your faith and developing your spirit and your soul, if you're not taking your academics seriously, why in the world would he give you a superhighway to the internet that you can carry around in your pocket? What if your tech isn't healthy? Young people, this is going to be on you, but this is where your family and your friends, they can step in too. We're going to remove and replace. We're going to take away the thing that's causing the damage and replace it with something that isn't. The idea here being you're going to remove the distraction. You're going to find that thing. So what I'll talk about with your parents, not right now, but in the future, is letting them know that just because something's off on the reset doesn't mean that that's the cause. Sometimes people game too much because something else in life is wrong. Sometimes people dive into social media because something else in life is wrong. We need to recognize that. That's where the conversation and relationship comes in. But we also need to understand that there comes a time to remove. 11 and a half years ago, that thing for me was video games because it was causing a distraction. Jesus puts it this way: if your right eye causes you to sin, tear it out, throw it away. For it is better that you lose one of your members than your whole body be thrown into hell. Think about your right eye, folks. That's not just painful. That's straight up inconvenient. If I lose my right eye, I lose depth perception. I'm going to be bumping into things for the rest of my life and probably be hitting my hand a lot with a hammer. Jesus is saying that's worth it. If that thing is causing you to sin, not just you use it a little too much or it's a little inconvenient, but you are choosing this thing for hope and purpose instead of trusting God for your hope and purpose. If that is you, your reset is off, that's your first trigger. You go to address it and go, oh, you know what? This thing's actually causing the problem. I need to step away. Then that's exactly what you need to do. Even if it comes to the point of incredible inconvenience, like using something other than a smartphone. And you're going to replace whatever that was with purpose. The example I like is to think about fruit of the Spirit. I want you to use all of the technology, young people, that brings out love and joy and peace and patience and kindness and goodness and faithfulness. If you can use your phone and it shows more of that in you, woo! I don't know a single parent in the room that doesn't want you. If there was a device that you could give your kid that 100% of the time did this, all of you would own one. It would be $1 trillion company. Because these are the things we want to see in our young people. This is what we want for you because that's where life comes from. But we need to know that that's not our only standard. If you go to Galatians 5:19, it brings up things like jealousy and hatred and lust. And if we're getting that from our technology, then that's part of what makes it expendable. So to review, young people, there's 2 kinds of tech. There's tool and drool tech. That we can know if it's a problem. You can use all the tool tech and drool tech you need while still being healthy in your reset. Your reset is that canary. When you start to score a 1 or a 2 out of 5, I scored a 5 out of 5 on unhealthy with my video games. Did it impact my relationships and responsibilities? Yes. Did it impact my emotions? Yes. My sleep? Yes. My enjoyment? Yes. My time? Absolutely. Rats. And it's not always just because I was playing with people that were bad at video games. So we want to be aware of that, and we want to make sure that we're using it on purpose, not for purpose. Awesome. I'm thankful for you guys making time tonight. Young people, for hearing this conversation. If you've got questions, you're welcome to write me too. Nathan@gospeltech.net. I love being able to talk this out. If you want to bring your parents to me and we can talk out your tech thing, I would love to do that. I'll be here tonight after this talk and then again tomorrow. Thank you guys for making time for it. And young people, you did awesome. I'm excited to see you love God and use tech well. Aaron, you've got your own mic.
All right, this will be quick. All of our teens or any child or anybody who thinks that they might be a child, teen, fourth grade up, you guys can go ahead and go out here. We have some solid help. You guys are going to have a good time. You guys are going to play some games. Parents, you guys can stay here. For those of you guys who are back there and you want to come up, feel free. We'll have a little bit of extra room. If you want to take a few minutes, we'll probably have about 5-10 minutes. 5 minutes? Is it good? Okay. 7:30, we'll start the next session, so you guys can do what you need to do.
Do whatever it is you got to do.
All right, get out of here.
Yeah?